Hello, 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 Savannah. Oh, doesn't that sound like Keisha a little bit? Okay, where's Keisha? Oh, I'm Keisha tonight. How y'all doing? That's right. I am pitch hitting here for Keisha Gibson Carter. And so welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm gonna say it again. Hello, Savannah. And we just gonna thank God for the opportunity. Got special guest tonight, of course. We've got Alicia Miller Blakely coming on, and John McMasters, and of course, local super community advocate, none other than my buddy Chuck Fagan with Better Savannah. We thank God for an opportunity to come before you, and like I said before we go, I want to pause just to say a few words about what's been happening with uh, Sister Carter. Amen. And right now, she's actually got a family commitment. Nothing bad's happening. She's just got a family commitment. And she said she wanted someone who looked cute like her to pitch it for her on the show. And here I am. and that's and y'all don't laugh too hard, okay? Because that's not supposed to be funny in but a certain way. So we just thank God for you. Thank God for her feeling comfortable enough with us doing this. And I want you to know that she's been bearing her burden in the heat of the day. She's been going through what others have gone through before her who were similarly suited. Um, Mary McLeod Bethune, Barbara Jordan, Fannie Lou Hamer, recently Maxine Waters, um, uh, Kamala Harris. Um, when women dare to take these positions and not take them as if they're being awarded them or rewarded to have them. When they take these positions as if they have the rights that they were bequeathed at birth as American citizens, when they have the temerity or the audacity to decide that they're going to be treated on equal footing and not take down. And when they speak as if they have been elected by the most votes citywide during their election period, when they don't kowtow, bow down, when they refuse to stay in their place, then you're going to have situations where people want to put them in their place, to define their rights to speak, to offer their opinions, and to represent their constituents. Such is the case for several of the women on city council, but principally for a person I believe that the good old boy system knows is the most viable, most electable, most charismatic, articulate, educated, and understanding of the circumstances person, elected official in our region. Now, somebody said in the region, so are you going to compare her to all these elected officials that you know, black elected officials and white? Yeah, black and white. Keisha Gibson Carter is the real deal, super sharp, and she's not going to bow down just because you try to bend her over. She's got steel in her spine. She's got strength in her mind, and she's got God on her side, and me too, for that matter. So we just want to thank God for it. Let me not prolong the time, but let me talk a little bit more about a situation that happened at City Council meeting a few days ago. A City Council meeting a few days ago, and not just this City Council meeting before. a constituent of Purdy's district, dissatisfied with his responding to her need, called Kesha Gibson Carter and Alicia Miller Blakely to her home and showed neglect by the city for services that she deserved, overgrowth in city property and such, causing hazardous conditions, snakes, water, all kind of things that should have been cared for by the city. Well, they came out, they got it done. But the lady wanted to come and voice her disdain, and she did. When she was leaving, because she was an elderly Caucasian woman, and she was leaving, and Kesha actually left the dais. They had a couple of items on the nondescript items still on the agenda, but when the lady was leaving, Kesha decided she would go with her to comfort her because she'd prepared before council that she would be nervous, and she's an elderly lady, so Kesha was with her. Fundamentally, while she was outside comforting and consoling and commiserating with the lady, Alicia Miller Blakely and others were there. Purdy came out and started approaching the lady. The lady said she didn't want to talk to him. The lady said she didn't want to deal with him. She was talking to who she wanted to talk to. And Kesha basically said, she has already said she don't want to talk to you. Okay. And in the exchange that took place, he called her a ghetto bee. Now, I am a gospel preacher, and I don't even like alluding to profanity in my speech. My friends like Chuck and Julius and others, and Bernard Brown and Arjun, all of them, Chandra, all of them know that I be fussing about cussing. So this is not new for me or for them, and they are my friends. But here's the deal. For this thing, I have to say it to make sure you understand how grievous it is. First of all, it was racist. Because what does Kesha Gibson Carter have to do with being ghetto? Well, there's nothing in her demeanor, nothing in her manner, nothing in her dress, nothing in her professional history. She's been chief executive officer at businesses and charities most of her career. I mean, she lives in Habersham Woods. What part of the ghetto is that? But nevertheless, him saying that to her alluded to his racism, not her circumstance. And then calling a Black woman a bee. It's hard for me to contain, even as I talk about it, it's hard for me to contain myself. So how can I ask her to contain herself? I'm a gospel preacher. I've been a pastor for right at 40 years. I've been preaching more than 50 years. Now, I did come out of the streets and I did come out of being hard, but I've been delivered. But the Bible says, be angry, but sin not. And I'm angry. I'm angry because at the prior meeting, he said to her, shut up, Kesha. You heard it. Shut up, Kesha. Not giving her the dignity of her office or of her person. Shut up, Kesha. And because she's been working on herself, and I want the public to hear this, because she's been working on herself. We've been talking back and forth since she got there 2.5 years ago. She rocked back. and didn't give him one of them Sunday morning cussings, which she's capable of, but she's grown from. And she basically was asking the mayor, did you hear that? What you gonna do about it? We gonna move on. No, you don't move on from that. It's not something you move on from. That's something you take care of. And I'll get to that. And then I said on my show, tell it like it is, that if he wasn't corrected properly, that he was going to do something and it was going to be worse. And a couple of weeks ago, he did something and it was worse. He went from shut up Kesha to calling her a girl dog from the ghetto. And for her to still be angry about it, for her to bring it up in council meeting when the mayor haven't dealt with it, when her other council colleagues who found it no problem taking her before the ethics board for behavior that wasn't as grievous or as personal. You do realize if two people do the same thing, they ought to do the same time. They ought to get the same punishment. They ought to have the same sanctions. You do realize that.
But it's crack and cocaine to them, right? Right, Pastor?
You heard? That's right. It's the difference between people going to jail for crack and people going to jail for cocaine, which is crack also. Crack is cocaine, cocaine is crack. But if you went to jail for cocaine, you might get 6 months. Mm-hmm. Crack, you get 10 years. Mm-hmm. Because the black folks don't get the same thing too often. Now, having said all that, some of you were taken aback by the fact that she said to him, and I want you to play it back again. Share, and like, please. But I want you to play it back again. It's on her page. Okay, it's on my blog, Leonard's blog. And I want you to play it again and watch her statements. Watch when she's talking, how she is poised, how she is seated, how she is simply stating her case. She gets up when he lies on her. She gets up when he says, you call me a pedophile. And she says, that's a lie. You know why she said that's a lie and stood up? Because that's a lie. And it was time to stand up. He's played that card. And I want the gay community whom she has supported, whom she's worked with down through the years, not just since she's been on council, to understand that he's playing with their viability by saying things that are not so. Watch this. There were 5 people within earshot of the confrontation in the rotunda at City Council. 5 people. There was a city administrator. There was Alicia Miller Blakely. There was the lady. There was Kesha. 6 people. There were 2 security guards. And 1 body camera that we have.
One of which is a sworn police officer.
And one of which is a sworn police officer. And so what am I saying? If they didn't hear it, then it didn't happen. But I'm going to go a little bit further, and please be patient with me, Chuck, and you others. You've got to remember now, back when he said, shut up, Kesha, when they interviewed him, he said that he was angry because when they were talking about the unisex bathrooms, she kept looking at him as if she was saying something untoward or looking at him with disdain. The only difficulty is, a lie is a hard thing to keep between the lines and keep it on the track. The difficulty is when he said, shut up, Kesha, they were not talking about the unisex bathrooms. They had not yet talked about the unisex bathrooms. The conversation about the unisex bathrooms came up 20 minutes later. Look at the tape. You'll see it for yourself. But because he said it, and the newscasters in our area are completely inept in reporting things that are obvious. And I'm going to make some more points on that before we get off here. Completely inept. They didn't ask anybody to corroborate his statements. None of the people who were there
took it as fact.
Took it as fact and wrote it as if it was gospel. And so that's what we have, and he knows it. And so when he started saying the other night, well, you call me a pedophile, that did not happen. That don't exist. And we're going to prove it. Because we've decided, several of us, to get together, and we are. And I'm announcing it exclusively on this program. We are filing an ethics complaint against City Councilman Curtis Purdy. There are about 6 ministers who've already agreed to sign off on it. And we will be putting it in the record and filing it and asking for a hearing on the matter. Having said all that, Chuck, how you doing?
It's another day in paradise, you know? I mean, you know, we're very close to a big, important election. There's still, you know, a lot of people have voted already, but there's still a lot of people left to vote. Mm-hmm. I think it's important because, you know, the context surrounding how we got here. And I guess I was at that meeting with you in council chambers last week. I was a couple rows behind you, and then we saw each other after the meeting was over. And I guess it's because I'm from Eastside Detroit originally, or because I've spent, you know, 15 years as a member of the latest and greatest Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated, you know, the last member of the Divine Nine of historically Black fraternities and sororities.
Amen.
But I was astounded at two things, and I'm going to get to Purdy in a second, but both Purdy and Palumbo, we had a 2-hour public hearing to, you know, receive public comments on the potential of denaming Calhoun Square. We can get to Van Johnson in process in a minute too, but, you know, I felt very moved by that hearing. You know, the even with the people who came to speak against it, you know, I mean, I thought there was very good things said that people needed to hear, even the things I disagreed with. And after 2 hours of this moving constituents, the only thing these two white aldermen could stomach to say was, I'm just so glad we're having the conversation. You know, if you're going to speak, you should speak well, you know, or just pass the mic. And furthermore, I just don't understand, if you're a student of history, how you cannot understand that Keisha Gibson Carter is the, you know, logical current end to a long 475 year lineage that starts with, you know, post Oglethorpe Savannah turning over to slavery, right? Yep. You know, 40, 50 years later after we're founded. So, you know, what's that, 1760, 1765? When, you know, it's a long history. And for the Curtis Purdy to insert himself. Go ahead, Pastor.
Let me make it a little plainer. Watch this. How far have we really come? When the morning news writer, Mr. Peoples, decides to write that all 9 people on council agreed to the change of the name coming up at next council meeting. Wasn't he sitting there I'm a trained listener. I'm actually a journalist of sorts myself. I own media. Okay, so I'm not just a media person. I actually own media properties. And so I have to, besides that, uh, with a PhD in Christian psychology, I was trained to listen critically. Neither Purdy nor Palumbo on purpose said the words, it should be changed. I'm in favor of changing it. Um, Palumbo mumbled three sentences and said, that's all I have to say, and passed the mic on to Kesha. My point is simply this. Why would the news ban? Why would the TV stations consistently distort the news when the giving of news is a public trust in itself? I don't get that, Chuck. I understand that maybe they pick sides, but can you do it all the time?
Well, understand that this isn't Chuck Fagan that believes this, but this is what they believe. I believe they believe. Keisha Gibson Carter is very valuable to these organizations. Keisha Gibson Carter drives ratings and clicks and shares of all of these organizations' content. I mean, what is the news rating of a WSAB newscast without a Keisha Gibson Carter story? And what's the ratings of a newscast leading with the Keisha Gibson Carter story? So, I don't commodify Keisha Gibson Carter, but I believe they do. Okay. And given that, but I just want to end with this about the hearing. I understand because of history that Keisha's expression during that hearing about being called a ghetto B, again, it's that logical current end of the line from Calhoun to today. And for Curtis Purdy to insert himself with the line, I too am oppressed. In the context of this debate with Calhoun, I think it's highly disrespectful. It's highly, at a minimum, highly racially insensitive. To
Mm-hmm.
say it politely, a better way to say it would be, that's some pretty racist kind of insertion there. Now again, we both know the record with the LGBT community in this town with Keisha Gibson Carter is so great that there's really no questioning that this is a black versus LGBT issue.
No,
What this
no.
is this is one of the mayor's majority's political issue with her advocacy. And we can go through the context and history of that whenever you like, but I figured I'd pass it back to you.
Is Alicia still in the wing?
She's in the comments. I see her in the comments section here, but did you get the link, Alicia? Let us know.
Okay. Anyway, here's the other thing from that other night, and we're going to get to loss and sploss. I really want to do that. Amen. So I'm going to take a minute to do a comparative analysis that you might find, some of you might find fruitful, some of you might find distasteful, but let's work with that. And I see John's up, so we're going to bring him in. Go ahead and bring John up if you can.
John, get in here, man.
So here's
The Phillies ain't gonna win.
Well, here's where we are. I watched the opening statements by the mayor concerning this discussion on the removal of the name John Calhoun from the park, the square. I listened to him and I saw him dancing and bucking dancing and skinning and grinning and rolling his eyes. I saw him, and I know I'm dating myself, but I saw him acting like Rochester from Jack Ben End. I mean, he was just on, but the most current character in fiction that I would reckon him to was in a movie called Durango. They had a guy by the name of Stephen, and he loved the plantation. He loved even the way he said it, Candyland. And I watched our mayor, and he is our mayor until December the 31st, 2022. I mean 23, and he won't be mayor no more. But here's the deal I want you to hear. I want you to understand. I watch him do things that I've seen down through the years in different venues, at different councils across the South, and sometimes up north. When a black man has decided his best work is to do things that will not besmirch the sensibilities of white folks. And he was doing that. I'm talking about with deft, with articulation, with erudition, and he was putting in steps that they don't have to take. He was putting in things that he don't have to do in terms of changing the name off of a square. And then he said this thing, and this screamed at me. He said, and even if we decide to take his name off and change it to another name, we will have to place something there that says formerly known as John Calhoun Square. That's a lie. We didn't take down West Broad Street and make it Martin Luther King Boulevard, formerly known as. There are 3 or 4 other squares in our city that have changed their names since their inception, and none of them, nobody knows the names that those squares had before we changed their names. Nobody. You know why? Because when we change the name gets changed. And it's over. Now, why would he do that? Then he said, we have several of the names that are under consideration. What you're doing, you're just ignoring Pat Gunn and her communities.
Every time it's something for this community, this mayor hides behind process.
Go ahead and say black people.
Okay, every time it comes to something for black people, this mayor keeps hiding behind process. And I don't know if I can, I don't know if I can I do this, Julius? This is what this man reminds me of, okay? Allen Iverson, circa 2002. I said, if you could put that in there real quick, like, Julius, I know you hear me. Hopefully you could put this in here, but it's Allen Iverson talking about practice, practice, practice. That's what I hear from this man. Every time we trying to get some progress on something, it's all about process. It's all about process. But when Rockingham Farms LLC wanted a $35 million bond 60 days into this term, woo, that thing went out the door real quick. Veterans Parkway got a massive amount of construction.
Yes, sir.
Okay. When it comes time to, getting SBAC to wipe out $50,000 of loans for all of its current clients with the initial CARES Act money, right? When Donald Trump was still president, right? That stuff goes straight out the door quick like. But when it comes to getting something for this community, when it comes to saving Yamacraw Village, or it comes to, put some impact fees on development, so maybe we don't have to pay so much in taxes and don't have to splosh ourselves to death. It's all process and incremental, and don't ask for too much. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. You asked to rename Susie King Taylor, one of the most influential women in the history of this town, right? But oh no, here's 2 steps back. We're gonna dename the square, But first we gotta have a public hearing about it. So I mean, it was highly symbolic.
No, he also snuck in that he was looking at putting together one of them task force to study it first. Okay, because he's a task force man when it comes to stuff like this. I want people to hear this. Make sure you understand, because I've been here working around doing this kind of stuff forever. It took us 10 years to put the Civil Rights Monument on River Street behind City Hall. 10 years. Dr. Abigail Jordan worked tirelessly, all but made herself old for 10 years putting that civil rights monument there and spent the bulk of it was her own money. Now, she didn't never tell anybody that I knew. Now, here's what I want you to also say. So when they wanted to put Martin Luther King's bus at the end down by the hotel, it might have took 10 minutes. Comparatively speaking, 10 years, it was up like that. Because you got to understand, we've had these types of struggles that we shouldn't have had all through the years. And now, when I was talking to some people from New Jersey and Massachusetts a day before yesterday, they could not believe what we're going through here. And when I told them we had 7 blacks and 2 whites on council, the lady said, "Well, how? Where's the struggle coming from?" Because people do not know that what's going on in Savannah is an aberration. It's an anomaly. This is not how this was supposed to go. Having said all that, um, I'm gonna run out of time, so I need to go to John.
Johnny Mac.
John,
Chuck.
give me an understanding about why we're in trouble when it comes to taxation and tax initiatives in Savannah. For those of you who don't understand, I just switched from Susan B. Taylor to Loss and T-Splosh.
Well, we have since 1985 implemented sales tax collections as a way to augment our capital budgets and with lost our general funds. And the real beneficiaries of these massive collections are, the private sector, architectural, civil engineering, legal firms that are all associated with the work. I think jumping ahead from 1985 to today, there's a fatigue of sorts that has settled over the voters, the citizens, and you layer that with this apprehension about the economy and the recession and the inflation that everyone is feeling, whether it's at the grocery store or the gas pump. It's just a dreadful time to be on top of the fatigue. Takes a lot of chutzpah to go to people and say, tax yourself some more so that these legacy contractors will have lots of work, and the communities will benefit from the improvements in infrastructure, the roads. So,
but they already had money to improve roads in Splosh. That's what Splosh was for those kind of capital projects.
I don't disagree with you, Pastor. I'm really just trying to be objective with a macro view of how we got from no sales tax collections to today. And yeah, I agree 100% with you that most of the SPLOST projects have been, they've kind of been sold surreptitiously to us, like the arena. Whether you love it or you hate it, doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is on the 2006 ballot, there was a list of projects and descriptions that were probably 200 or 300 words in total. And the arena, which was 80% of the city's portion of that SPLOST, was identified in 2 words: and arena. So
that's exactly right.
Yeah. Add to that the compounding problems of delivery and continuity, and the thing just gets even messier. for instance, we were really sold that the Civic Center was outdated, and we needed to have a new arena for locals to go to events. And now we can kind of see that the arena wasn't it so much for locals as it was for the tourism industry. And
Mhm.
to that end, their grand plan is to link the western edge of the historic district with the arena through the canal district.
Yes,
So that no one voted on a canal district, and we're
at
we're
all.
we're talking about a sum of money probably as great as the arena itself, and possibly even more, possibly 200 million. And
Hmm.
no one voted on it. Uh, the money is not identified, except they keep slipping in little components. It's like how do you get an elephant into a small room? You do it piece by piece. You can't do it all at once.
Yep.
So if you look at the current uh, SPLOST 7, there's tons of hidden money for drainage, Springfield Canal, etc. And that's Canal District. They just are not calling it what it is.
They're not calling it what it is.
Right. So,
But here's the thing, and here's where I come down with people being led astray based on not understanding what's transpiring. We've been conned. First of all, it's a penny tax. Well, actually, it's not a penny tax. It's $500 million. That's $500 million. Secondly, they lie and say people who are not from here or people who do not live here will pay 40% of it. So that's a good deal for you. Well, that's still $300 million. Do the math.
oh yeah,
That
you're
would
right.
still
You're
be $300 million that they get to give to each other in bending and contracts and legal fees and bond issues and such. So here's the thing. I was in council. I was at the commission meeting when loss was passed the first time, and it was supposed to be for a one-time thing. Okay, then SPLOS was passed, and it was supposed to be a one-time thing. And each SPLOS at that point was, okay, we're going to include the African American community in the
right.
bin in the contracts, and that you were in the room, so
Yeah,
I know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
And we got these set asides we're going to do. None of it ever took place. When I say none of it, none of it. Over the time of SPLOS, E-SPLOS, and now T-SPLOS, which which is strange, they used to promise the Black community some participation in the money.
Yeah, yeah. They're not
They
even.
got to the point now they won't even promise us.
Nope.
They come on, at least you ought to lie to me. Don't treat me like I'm just so insignificant. You don't have to even lie to me. Okay, so anyway, having said all that, I do want people to understand this is not pennies. And when you hear this term, it's a regressive tax. Let me explain as succinctly as I can. A regressive tax means that the people who can least afford to pay more than their share. That's as simple as I can put it. So in practical application, this is how it goes. A person like myself who makes a very good living from one thing or another, has investments, has real estate, things like that. I don't spend all my money. All the money I take in, I don't spend. All the money John takes in, he doesn't spend all his money. Well, he spent a bunch of it going back and forth to California, but that's John. The point I'm saying is we don't have to spend all of our money each year. Therefore, we only pay sales tax on a portion of our money. Whereas most people, because America has most people who don't have $400 worth of savings. and definitely not $1,000 in savings. People are living hand to hand. Okay, paycheck to paycheck. Those people spend all of the money they take in enough to pay out, and they pay on 100% because they spend 100% of what they take in. So the well-off people only are paying sales tax on maybe 25, 30, 40% of what they take in. Whereas a poor person or a medium class person or a working poor are paying on everything they buy, on everything from all the money they get.
Yeah.
And that's what's making it regressive. That's what makes it unfair. And now we're trying to go to a third penny on this.
Well, on top of the states,
4 cents already.
yeah, 4 cents, and then the 5th cent being lost, and then splost, and then e-splost, and then
Now T-Splosh.
e-splost. So, we've been actively promoting a no vote on T-splost, and you would be absolutely amazed at the pushback, the agreement that we are getting from all sectors, rich, poor, progressive, conservative. This is very telling, and this is what I call a tipping point, where the saturation and the fatigue and the absolute rejection of yet another tax in this economic climate is quite a surprise to us, Pastor. People of all stripes, unincorporated people say, "You just increased my fire fees. You increased my property taxes. You increased my fire fees. Now, while inflation has taken us backwards, now you want me to tax myself again? No." And not to mention the nebulous, unclear list of projects that have no community benefits attached to them for equity. Setting all that aside, just on the surface, on the sheer concept, it's probably 29 out of 30 people are saying absolutely not. So I think the Chamber of Commerce, who's spearheading this push for it, along with these cronies on city council, because they just do what they're told by the oligarchy, they're in for a rude surprise.
I just have on the screen, this is a new Facebook page called Citizens for Progress.
It's their page.
It is their page. All right.
Whose page?
This is the Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, I told you that.
Yeah. So they're advertising with the photos of Van, Nick, Curtis, and Linda. And just for example, this post that's been up only 72 hours, it's got 121 comments. The majority of reactions are laughing or angry. You go over to, say Nick Palumbo, 120 comments.
Look at Marie Savage. Not this time. I don't need sidewalks or some bike trail. They never even want to clean ditches on my road. I have to request over and over before they come out and only clean part of it. Not to mention the nasty ditch down the road. Don't even get me started. What you say, Marie?
Well, it's a little shorter, but right above Tanya Rivers says, "Y'all need to stop trying to make us vote for this mess."
So, here's the thing. And I want people to understand this. This is not just Democrats or Republicans this time.
No,
this is us.
Broad-based.
This is us. Now, I know that's a bad term for black man to use because ebonics and all that, but this is us is talking at this point. And I just want us to understand this is we the people, and we the people have recognized that this doesn't make any sense. What's this we got up here looking?
All right, so what we about to look through right now is I just want people to see what it is we're up against. Okay,
go ahead.
All right, this is the filing disclosure of this organization, Citizens for Progress.
Okay.
It was filed in the last week of August, but all of this money that I'm about to show you was raised in about a 10-day period, mostly in the last about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Quentin Marlin, who's an attorney, is the stated chairman of this committee.
Mm-hmm.
So East Coast Terminal, that's a logistics terminal company, private interest doing with the port. Reed
Right.
Delaney, 5,000. Hatcher Holdings, also Reed Delaney, 5,000. Thomas and Hutton, legacy contractor, 5,000. Coleman Company, legacy contractor, 5,000. Hussey, Gay and Bell and Young, legacy contractor, 5,000.
Yeah, that's pennies for what they're gonna get.
Oh, absolutely. Build Better Communities Pack. I don't know what that is. 5,000. It gets even worse though. It keeps getting better. I mean, Evans General Contractor. That's a big time school board
Yeah.
contractor, big time contractor,
Oh yeah, that's
2,500. Hunter McLean, the attorneys. All these developers, they need attorneys, right,
they're
Pastor?
gonna need
We
attorneys.
and
Somebody
really
got
truly,
somebody got to
we
do
all
those
need an
bonds.
attorney. So they got
They got to do those
2,000.
bonds.
Landmark 24 Homes, largest locally owned home builder, also
Mm-hmm.
heavily invested in Rockingham Farms. They got that bond. That's Jack and Jerry Wardlaw, 5,000. Don't know who that is. Roberts Civil Engineering, another engineering firm. Terracon, big time local company, 5,000. All right.
Didn't
But
take them long.
taking the cake on October the 20th. Look at this number, guys. Savannah Area Chamber of Commerce, $60,000. I want to pose this question to you two gentlemen. Okay, let me pose. I asked John this earlier. I cannot remember a time where the Savannah Area Chamber of Commerce cut a $60,000 check in one fell swoop. I can remember them cutting $25,000 checks.
I remember,
but not 60.
Well, let me help you. Let me help you a little bit. They're cutting this check.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if that's legal. Let me explain. This is a city and county initiative, and they get from the city over $10 million a year. The last time I checked.
Yep.
Over $10 million a year. So if they take $60,000 out of the $10 million we give them to run the Chamber of Commerce, now ask me when I'm drunk, and I haven't drank anything since 1975, but ask me when I'm good and drunk, what they do with over $10 million a year from the city of Savannah. How can these businessmen not be successful if they got a $10 million head start every year? T-Splosh is going to simply be another boondoggle where these people who are already rich get richer. That's all this is for. It has nothing else in mind. It's not for the benefit of the community. Our roads and sidewalks were supposed to be covered by Splosh. That was the promise. Okay, our education is supposed to be. We were already getting money to build schools and educate our kids. We gave a penny for that, and did we get better education? Did we get a higher graduation rate? Did our children come out with better grades anywhere? You do remember now, how cute the school is does not mean how effective the education is.
Yeah.
That, I mean, put the pieces together. And when you take, watch this, when you take and bully Josie Shepard out of the front of his service station on Gwinnett and Stiles by threatening him with eminent domain, and you say you got to take his land, you got to have it, and you threaten him and make him give you a portion of his land. But when you get to the Tenenbaums with Chatham Steel, not only do you not use eminent domain, you do the environmental improvements to the ground, you do all the paving, You put all the lines in.
Great deal. It's a great deal if you
Wait a
can get
minute.
it.
And then wait a minute. It gets worse. You then give them a lease. They give you a lease. You got to pay them for having this thing on their property. They never lose the property. You've improved it. It gets worse now. I keep telling you, it gets worse. And they collect the money for the parking.
Chuck, show us where
On screen. So on screen right now,
where you're going.
recognize these names that I just read off. Where
Uh-huh.
we're at now is this is Mayor Van Johnson's most recent campaign finance disclosure. Hatcher Holdings, again, Reed Delaney, Landmark 24, a bunch of attorneys.
Oh, this is Van Johnson's.
This is Van Johnson's. Meg Heap. Van Johnson's got a contribution for Meg Heap on here. I think that's hilarious.
Go ahead with that now.
You know.
No, don't say that.
People with Hunter McLean, $2,000, right? Hussey Gay and Bell, $1,000, right? J.C. Lewis Ford, you know, $1,000, another $1,000. J.E. Dunn, same contractor I just named, $500, right? So, like, my point is that the same people who are bringing us these ads for T-Splost are the same people bringing us these ads, you know, bringing us this term of Van Johnson. Okay?
Hey, we're telling you what God loves. We're telling you the truth. We're just telling you the truth. Okay, and these are official financial disclosures. And I do want to say this, just in case, because I'm an equal opportunity watcher of politics. Up to and until these same people had a come to Jesus meeting for Chester Ellis, we were able to talk with him. We were able to have.
We're getting to him right now. We're getting to him next.
Oh, go ahead. Work your magic.
You know, so now we got Chester Ellis, who leaves a bunch of his stuff blank. Oh, that's right. He filed it wrong on this one. I got to pull this one up. Here it is. Chester Ellis. He's got these same names, y'all. Let me zoom it in so everybody can see it. Okay. You know, and I mean, I could go on and on. Roger Moss, Jason Buterman, all the way back to Mayor Eddie DeLoach. These same people. Okay. $89,000 in one cycle, in one report for Chester Ellis. Okay. When we get down to the names, you let me know when we start recognizing them here. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see here. These are contributions itemized. Diane Harper Johnson, head of the Hungry Club. We all know her.
Praise God, we know.
Georgia Restaurant Pack. That's a special interest. Let's see. David Patterson, Seacrest Partners. Big time insurance. Cal Patel, Image Hotels. That's the cotton sale on the waterfront. $1,000. All right. Hatcher Holdings. Reed Delaney. Again, $2,800 to the chairman. You know. That's this year, or that's last year in 2021. That's after he got elected, right? Reed Delaney personally, another $2,800. So he gave him 2 max out donations, right? Evans General Contractors, $2,800. Same contract I just mentioned.
Evans building stuff everywhere.
Mark Hall, North Point Real Estate. You know, that's big time money right there. North Point Real Estate Holdings. That's big time money. $2,800. Dale Christ Jr. being cheap on the 1,000. Colonial Oil Group being cheap on the 1,000 here with these guys. Let's see here. What's the next one that's really, really astounding? Some of these aren't even disclosed properly with names and employers. Paul Hinchy's the head of St. Joseph's Candler. You know. Jeff Cole Management, another 2,000. Robert Thompson, that's the Pilots Association. You know, another very influential organization, right? Thomas and Hutton, TIC. Let's see here. And again, this is only halfway through this report, y'all. Okay,
just halfway.
Leonard, if
there's some more Thomas and Hutton again.
K Ford, Bank South.
Well, okay. Here's the deal.
Oh yeah, J.K. Holmes. Go ahead, Pastor. I think we made the point. We made the point.
You get the government you pay for.
Ain't that the truth?
Well, you get the government you pay for. So here's the deal.
Rich people get the government they pay for.
Well, they're paying for it.
Yeah,
they're paying for it. The difficulty is And I'm gonna bring it back now. You got to understand something. History should inform you. History should inform you. So let's do this. Let's look at a little history. 3 years ago, we decided to support 7 Black candidates for city council. I never lie. 7 black candidates. We left
This is sad.
Tony Thomas and Purdy to themselves out there in this district. We didn't bother Palumbo at all. We left his district. He was unopposed. We got 7 out of 7. 7 out of 7 we got. Okay? So, and one of the people that we took out, I married him and his wife in Litway Church. He is Mr. Thunderbolt, John Hall.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, hurry up and make sure you understand. I regret doing that because I was lied to. I was told we were going to get fairness and equity if we helped Linda. Same thing with Dietrich. Those people have ignored the African-American community to no end. Now they're going to start running back because it's 12 months out. But here's what I want you to understand. If we got 7 out of 7, and people that we supported like Chester and others on the county commission, and almost everybody we've been backing, including like Rufus Bright out in Port Wentworth and all those 3, we've got the majority of on Port Wentworth. If that pattern is already established, trust me, we will get the government, but it's not what we paid for. It's going to be what we vote for. Because no matter how much money you got, you don't get but one vote. And we are going to have better government. We're going to have government that cares that people are getting put out of Clearview with their furniture being put in the street. That people are will put out of the housing project over off of 38th and Truman Parkway area. We'll have a people that care about the fact that Chatham Apartments, people who were disabled veterans and others, the least of them in Savannah, who lived in that building for 25 and 30 years with a little bit of security they could have had, and they were summarily dismissed in favor of scared students. So what kind of place is this? What kind of place is this? Who could work to come up with the first excuse they could to displace the people from under the bridge and lie and say they were going to do something for them? When they displaced the people out of and put those people out prematurely, they told them they had till the end of the month in Clearview. And then they filed dispossessories. They told them to leave, and the people were packing up and leaving. Then they filed dispossessories. And when you got a dispossessory on your record, you cannot get an apartment. They couldn't move. One guy was on his way to pay his deposit and his first month's rent, got there and they said, we just pulled up your record and there's this dispossessory downtown was filed yesterday.
You've been evicted. Yep.
Well, I just want to say that I brought up all these, the Citizens for Progress page, these donations, to remind everybody about the next 8 days and the next 12 months.
Come on.
These races, this race for T-Splost and this race for next year's city council, it's about people versus money. They've got money. We've got people. And if we stick together, we will defeat that money, just like we did in 2019, just like we did in 2020. And, although, we supported Jason Buterman, who did raise all that money, that's looking better and better in the hindsight, given that he was a relatively moderate Republican compared to most of the ones that we got. Just like all the people we're working with on T-Splost against T-Splost are very, sane, moderate Republican people understanding what's going on,
Well, listen. This thing is crossing. The T-Splost thing is crossing the Democrat Republican divide. It's crossing the white-black divide.
All
So,
demographics are
yeah,
coming.
so what we've got to do is not only on T-Splosh, but on a whole lot of issues, we've got to find that sweet spot. We've got to find that common sense area that regular folk can see eye to eye on. Regular folk can see eye to eye on the person who does the same work, getting the same pay. Regular folks, we don't get confused with stuff like that. We don't get confused with the idea that it's a good thing if the government can figure out a way for people to pay $35 a month for insulin. We don't get confused. That's not black or white. That's not rich or poor. That's not class. That's just common sense. That's just human decency. We've got to get to more of those issues, and we can do that.
I've got to let me have the floor for just a second here.
You got it.
Okay. The sales tax referendums, the SPLOST, the E-SPLOST, the T-SPLOST, by law have to go for capital projects, not general fund expenses.
Right.
When this T-SPLOST fails, they have to wait 12 months, according to the Georgia Code, to bring it back if they wanted to bring it back. Now, I think the T needs to be dropped, and it needs to be TA, the TA amendment. And what the T can stand for transportation, and we'll do better with identifying the project lists and community benefits and making more sense of that half of the collection. But the A is for affordable housing. Imagine it's a capital project. It's entirely within the legal procedures of Georgia Code. If there was an affordable housing sales tax collection, I think that would pass without these guys having to put $120,000 into it. I think that would naturally pass because that's what people are worried about more than anything. That's what people want to see built. And there's no reason why the city and the county can't work together to build affordable housing units. How much would half of it would be $250 million infused directly into solving the single biggest issue facing this community? Now, why won't they do that? If they were smart, when this T-SPLOST fails, they'll wait 12 months and they'll come back with a hybrid that has a huge component to address affordable housing issues. That's
let me prayerfully disagree.
okay.
We've got money that we didn't have to tax for already. We got last year we got $54 million that we did not anticipate. Savannah is floating in money. From the time that DeLoach was the mayor and the city budget was $350 million. Now the city budget is nearly $500 million, 2.5 years later. We got mammy's money. The point of the matter is how you spend it. If you spend $260 million, pardon me, to build an arena, $260 million to build an arena, and then you lease the arena to some good old boys and buddies, where the maximum they pay you back is $5 million a year. That's the deal we got with the arena. That's the deal we're living with. It's like you're gonna build a house for $2.5 million, and you're gonna rent it for $500 a month.
Well, I'm being Pastor.
Yes, sir.
If you consider the history that is so hardwired so case hardened
Mhm.
that the list that Chuck went through, those people need to get their hands in the money.
That's
So,
the same people. You're right.
so I don't think they're going to care if it's in affordable housing, civil engineering, and architecture and legal work. At least the community would have something to show for it that is significant and helpful. So I'm working within the confines of history and just saying, if you want public support, because SPLOS is voter approved, LOST is an executive decision between two governments,
Right.
entirely different approval process.
Hmm.
If you want the citizens to turn out and support a new tax, it's got to go to something significant and meaningful to them.
And
And
and that's true.
and the legacy contractors will still get their get. Okay, it'll just happen to be for something of great value and great need.
But my point is, we got enough money. The digest blew up in the last 3 years. The personal property values went through the roof. We have more money in hand and coming in than we ever had before. You know, it's like I've been pastoring Litway for 39 years. And so I tell the people who've been paying me, and I've been living reasonably, well, you know, this car I got is nice. But, you know, if you really love the Lord, you all would buy me
A nice
a Rolls Royce. Okay?
Okay,
You know,
Creflo.
you could do this. There's no problem with it if you love the Lord. Okay, but here's the thing. If you're asking me for what you don't need, to buy what I don't want, and is unnecessary, why don't you just use the money that you're already getting to do what's reasonable? Now, I understand it would have been a better deal, John. I agree. It would have been a better deal if it was going for a better cause. Because the cause it's going for now, first of all, they didn't name where all the money is going to go.
No, and we know 10 million is going
so,
to
so
identify Chester Ellis.
when you don't name where all the money gonna go, what you taking up the money for?
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap all this up for Keisha's regular Monday show. This is the second to last Monday before Election Day, so I think she'll have one more of these. Hopefully, of course, our regular show at Better Savannah is on Thursdays, and Pastor's show at the Unity and the Community Political Action Committee. Tell it like it is, Saturday evening, early evening. So you can check out more of this conversation coming in a few days. But I can't end the broadcast without just telling people, get out there and vote. Early voting runs through this Friday. It's 4 more days of it. Elections next Tuesday.
So we just want to thank you for tuning in. And as we wind up, I want to say to you, for those of you who have difficulty with the way Kesha responded the other night, I had some women talk to me about this situation. And they said, well, Reverend Small, maybe she should just kind of calm down. And I asked them, because, these are sisters. And I'm the only guy in the room, and I'm talking to some sisters. And I said, so if he called you a B, and since I know you, you were going to sit there and be dignified. Now listen to one of the people that I asked this question, Dr. Betty Jones. She started just shaking her head. Okay, everybody knows Betty is the best person in the world. She just started, you call her a B, it's gonna be a problem. Because Black women don't play that. She's containing herself. One minister who I argued with about Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, I called him and said, well, suppose, since you had that opinion about that Will Smith shouldn't have been showing any violence, and violence is always, physical violence is just not reasonable. I said, suppose Mr. Purdy had called your wife a ghetto B. He said church would be out. This is another one of my ministers. He said church would just be out. That's all. He said I wouldn't care if she was trying to be the mayor or the president. It wasn't going. No, that wasn't going to happen. So here's the thing: people need to understand that this thing has gone too far. That this disrespect, Trump calling a lady ugly on national news, Trump calling Maxine Waters ignorant, of low IQ. That kind of thing is what's happening to Kesha Gibson Carter. Now you could either think that she should just go along with that, but isn't that like telling a woman who's being raped, just lay there and it'll be over in a minute? No. If you keep letting someone abuse you, if a man slaps you, leave him. Call the police and leave him. I've got a 3-point plan. I've got a 3-point plan for domestic violence. A 3-point plan. First point, and I'm just gonna be quick. First point, 9. Second point, 1. Third point, 1. 911. Call the popo. Get him arresticated. Lock his butt up.
Well,
and then leave.
Have we been completely emphatic and clear to the viewers? Do not vote for T-Splosh.
Do not vote for T-Splosh. Do not vote for T-Splosh. Do not vote for T-Splosh. And do not misunderstand based on the news, either print or journal or TV, that she's out of order. This is Reverend Dr. Leonard Small. I am pinch hitting for Kesha Gibson Carter, and I'm going to say it one more time. Come on in, Savannah. Just one more time. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, John. Sure. We're out of here. Y'all be blessed.
Like this.